let me make a comment, and I think we all will concur uh, in this point. And several of us have mentioned that our past experiences and our past walk with God has served a very, very valuable purpose. It helped us from the very beginning to get established, to get grounded. The experiences gave us a scope of experience, a spectrum of experience, which becomes our base from which to launch into new things. But true to everything alive, plant, animal, and human, everything alive wants to expand, wants to multiply, wants to propagate. It wants to conquer. Everything alive. Think of your plants. They just keep growing, growing, providing we water them. They keep growing and growing. They produce seeds, fruits, flowers to fill the earth with itself. The same with animals. They propagate. The same with humans. We not only propagate our species, but we like to expand our knowledge or our influence. Especially us guys, we like to conquer. It's built into us. Everything alive wants to grow. Now, I do believe it's exactly the same way in our spirit man. Our spirit, or maybe I should say our soul man slash spirit, our spirit man's already in God. So that we're cool with that, but there's a growth desire. There's a need to grow that is innate in every one of us. And it's waiting for new territory. And if we stay too long in yesterday's pasture, we tend, if we're not careful, if we don't have good understanding, we tend to get mad at that pasture. Now that's not a good thing. We tend to point the finger at that pasture for not producing more. When Psalms 23 says, He leads me in green pastures, plural. And so you and I want to find the new pastures that will keep the growth process in process. And unfortunately, because of our insecurities, because we love our comfort zones, because this is all I've ever known and this is what Grandpa taught me, sometimes we have fear of going to some place new. But going to some place new, we must. Thank you, Yoda. I like that construction of that sentence. We must go to some place new if we're going to stay alive in God. Because that need to grow, need to expand, is built into us. Think of Isaiah 54. Stretch out your tent pegs and lengthen your cords. Think of the great verse that Jabez prayed maybe 20 years ago. It was real popular in the church. Oh Lord, that you would expand my territory. Just don't let me cause pain. There is a great need and desire down inside of us. If we're not careful, we can subjugate it. We can subdue it. We can try to put it down. And something inside of us gets a little kind of antsy and frustrated. And like I said, if we're not careful, we can point the finger at yesterday's pasture because it's not producing what it produced when we were there in the beginning. Let me take a little parentheses story here. When I lived in Wisconsin for 12 years, throughout the 90s, I had a bunch of farm animals. Now, we didn't do them for money, we did them for the experience. But we had a flock of sheep. And those sheep were in a enclosed pasture, and I didn't have any other pastures on our property. So at one point, when I realized I could not keep them in nutritious grass to eat, I moved them to a nearby farm and rented a pasture for a while until they ate that down. And we came back to our farm, and guess what? The grass was up again. So we had to move them to where they had nutrition. And if I couldn't move them, then I had to bring hay or some kind of feed in to keep them healthy. And I believe, of course, that's what Father does for us, but that gives a very real picture. Now let's think about something here for a moment. If I was a sheep and I came to a new pasture, I would think, wow, this is great. All the green grass I could possibly eat, right? Until a few months or a year or whatever, or maybe I'm in the winter and I've eaten all the grass down and the grass is just sticking up out of the ground by a half inch and I'm trying to pinch off a little bit. Now, this is where there's a little breakdown, because on earthly situations, shepherds can shortchange their sheep, or not watch over them well. But we have a Heavenly Father who does expertly for us if we'll stay in the saddle with Him, if we'll move along with Him as He opens up new doors. Okay, now back to this. I believe God is opening a huge door for all of us. It's a huge door. We've all been involved with garden variety religion. And I don't mean that to be diminishing. That just means it's kind of been our average, normal, conventional Christianity experience. We grew up with that, and it's largely been our experience for 2,000 years. Fortunately, we're coming into a new age. And there's whole new grass, whole new pastures that have nutrition that we have never been apprised of. It's never been offered to us, except for a very few who had the drive or desire to press into the eternal realm and find it for themselves. What's cool is, I believe with all my heart, God is opening up a huge door, and there's a wholesale grace for a brand new day in God with brand new nutrition. No wonder we're excited. No wonder our heart and soul just comes alive like, yes, I'm in growth mode again. Yes, I'm growing again. Yes, I feel healthy again. So I imagine that says something what your heart feels, but it certainly is expressive of mine.